Hello and welcome to today's podcast. I hope you guys been well and taking care of yourselves. And today we're going to look at the topic of the imposter syndrome. We're going to look at the imposter syndrome. So pretty much is that we are going to look at what it is, how to handle the psychological situation, the imposter syndrome. So now, what is the imposter syndrome? So basically, the imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon which gives you the belief, you give someone the belief basically that they are inadequate, right? You're not adequate enough to do something, that is, and you are incompetent, right? It's sort of a doubtful voice that's in your head usually. So it tells you that you are inadequate and you are incompetent, even if there's evidence that actually you are competent and adequate to do certain things, right? And that's even despite the fact that you are skillful and successful in your own right. So that's the gist of it. That's the imposter syndrome, that doubtful voice telling you that you are inadequate, you are incompetent, right? You can't, you really are not skillful. It's just telling you these things that are negative and doubtful about yourself. Now, to clarify things, right? The imposter syndrome will take various forms in different individual, right? Different people will obviously have this effect on them differently, right? Obviously, this is dependent on an individual's background, their personality, and of course their circumstances. So this psychological effect will affect people differently. Now, let's see how or what type of people usually these voices appear on. And when I talk about voices, I'm not talking like literal voices. Let's get things clear here. I'm just talking about like your doubtfulness, the things you doubt about yourself, right? So it's not like you're gonna hear a voice telling you these things. So as I was doing my research on this, right, I came across 5 categories when it comes to the imposter syndrome. So there may be more, right, of them, but these I think are the ones that are the usual suspect, I guess I can say. So there are 5, these are the 5 distinctive voices, if you may, or categories that you will usually fall into. Now let's look at these 5 categories and see which one you think really affects you. And so we're gonna look at each, and then we're going to delve into each and see how we can actually be able to counter each. Now, one is the perfectionist, right? Number 2 is the Superman, or in any case Superwoman, right? Number 3, the natural genius, right? Number 4, the soloist, right? And number 5, the expert. So that's the perfectionist, the Superwoman / Superman, the natural genius, the soloist, and the expert. Now let's take a look at each, of course starting with the perfectionist, and see if you fall, or how you fall into each category, if they do affect you, that is, and see how you can actually be able to counter these and help yourself go through these imposter syndrome effects. So with the perfectionist, they tend to set excessively high goals, very high goals, which of course is nothing wrong with that. However, when perfectionists fail to reach these goals, that's where the problem comes, right? You set high, lofty goals, right, that you want to or would like to accomplish, but as we know, life happens, and then we tend to fall or fail, and this is when the imposter sneaks in. And when the imposter does sneak in, the perfectionists tend to now experience major doubtful and worry, tend to worry about measuring up, basically, like what will happen if I'm not capable of actually measuring up to those goals that I have put up for myself, right? So once we allow, or the perfectionist allows the doubtfulness and the worriness, it does take a toll on them, right? And it psychologically does affect them. And another psychological effect of the perfectionist, they tend to be control freaks, and they feel that everything has to be done a certain way, and if someone cannot do the thing right, then they have to do it themselves. So this is sometimes why they get things out of control, and they're not able to actually accomplish a lot of goals, because that's the type who actually love micromanaging people, right? So what are some of the signs of the perfectionist? Now, like I said, a lot of us are not exempt from these sort of syndromes and psychological effects, right? So you just look at the points that may help you, and then if you are able to actually recognize something about you, then you can know what to do. So let's look at some of these signs of a perfectionist, right? Since we're going through first, let's just look at them first. Okay, there is micromanaging. I mentioned this, that perfectionists love micromanaging everything, right? They want things to be perfect even when things cannot be perfect, right? And also it's very difficult for them to delegate things. Like I said, they like doing things a certain way, and they have to be those things have to be perfect, so they find it very difficult to delegate, because they also know that if someone messes up, it's on them, but then of course they'll feel disappointed, that person, right, and frustrated, and in that case the results for them are never really enough or good enough. Another sign of a perfectionist is that perfectionists want things to be 100% always. They want things to be always on point. Everything should be perfect always. When that does not happen, that's when all this doubt and all these worries creep by. Now let's look at number 2, the Superman/Superwoman. So as for the Superman/Superwoman, right, most affected by this syndrome here are those who feel like they're fake, even if it's not real and they're not fake. They feel like they're phonies, right, because they compare themselves to colleagues, the colleagues who maybe have experience, colleagues who seem to have it made, right? Maybe they have certain things and certain attributes. So now what happens is they then have to push themselves to work harder, kind of like want to catch up, but this only takes them to a breaking point, because they're not now doing things as slowly as they're supposed to. They just want to catch up, which is a big mistake, right? Because this also brings in the worry and the frustrations that comes with your work, in this case if you're at work, because people have different experiences and they have different circumstances. So if you're going to compare yourself to someone who you probably the same work but have different accomplishments, right? That person has their own sort of lifestyle and their path, so you cannot really try and catch up to that person, right? And furthermore, once you start competing or trying to catch up, this will just be a cover up for insecurities. So you see, the thing is, a lot of people try to cover up insecurities with accomplishments and overdoing things, overdoing work. But in essence, all you have to do is just do your work, complete it, take a day at a time, and don't really worry about your colleagues, what they say or what they do, because at the end you are there to work or do your thing, right? And worse yet, a lot of the time, once this imposter syndrome creeps in the Superwoman / Superman, their relationships, right, tend to go down, because it does take a toll in their mental health at the end of the day. So relationships will usually break and they won't be good. So what are the signs of the Superwoman or Superman? Staying up late at the office than compared to the rest of the team, even past the point that you've completed the day's work, right? Getting stressed when not working, and not finding some downtime, because now some downtime, time to just relax, you find it as if it's wasteful, when in actual fact we sometimes just need to relax. But Superman or Superwoman find that if they relax, then they're wasting time. Another thing more Superwoman or Superman will do, they will leave their hobbies, the hobbies that they used to love, things that they used to love and do in a regular basis, basically their passions, and then they're gonna sacrifice all that for work, which in turn makes them even more stressful, because their hobbies they used to love their hobbies, they used to do things that would actually calm them down when doing their hobbies. And one other thing is that for Superman, that is, they feel like their titles, they have not really earned their titles, degrees, achievements, and then they feel that they have to work even harder in spite of having those degrees and achievements, right? And usually try to do this just to prove their worth. And on to number 3, the natural genius, right? So what is the natural genius? So for the natural genius, right, these are the people who feel like their competence should be judged based on ease and speed, as opposed to putting in effort, right? Which means if they take a long time to master something, they feel shame and they feel like they're not complete. So they want to master things no matter how hard, right? They want to master things very quickly. They want to do things at a speed, even if they have not really learned or mastered that skill. And this, unfortunately, this sort of imposter, right, this imposter syndrome, they usually set their internal bar, right, that successful bar, very, very high, almost just like the perfectionist. And the main difference with the perfectionist, right, the natural genius want to get things correct right at the first time. They don't really want to take the time or have that ability to take the time to actually learn those things and then make mistakes and then learn from them. They want, if they go at something, they want to get it right from the get-go. And when they're not able to achieve this is when that imposter syndrome kicks in. So what are the facts that usually, or the signs of the natural genius imposter syndrome. Okay, you will have sometimes those who are used to excelling, right, without much effort. People who just from maybe grade 1 all the way to high school, university, they were very excellent and never really had to do much in terms of studying, right? And so they really didn't get much challenges from school or anything that they were learning as children. So these are the straight A's, the geniuses basically. Another thing is that they do not like the idea of having a mentor because they prefer having or handling things on their own. And when they encounter setbacks, right, their confidence tumbles, and that's because not performing well, this like provokes a feeling of shame because they're so used. Remember, as I said, they're so used to getting things done, getting things right from the beginning. So when setbacks appear, then they feel a sort of shame, and then eventually they avoid challenges because not performing well, this will provoke a feeling of shame in them. Okay, number 4, the soloist. Now, as for the soloist, right, these are the type that dread asking for help. They feel as if they ask for help, any sort of help that is, this will actually poke at their weakness, right? Now, like I say, it's okay to actually be independent, right? But you should not be independent to the extent that you refuse assistance, just that you can prove your worth. We can't do things or everything on our own. We need help sometimes. I think sometimes because there are no people around who will help us and all that, but still we need to put in mind that we can't do everything on our own. We still need help. We still need people to actually aid us through a lot of things. And that's, like I said, it's okay to be independent, but not to that extent that now we're pushing people away who would actually help us. Now, how does this imposter sneak in? Usually the soloist feels that they need to accomplish things on their own, right? Also, they feel like they really do not need anyone's help. And also the way they frame their help, right, or when they need help, they frame it as if it's a sort of project or work, but in actuality they need help individually, in an individualistic setting, but they're going to frame it as if it's work or something like that. So that's the soloist. And now we're going to number 5, the last but not least, the expert. Now, as for experts, right, they measure their competence based on what and how much they know, or what they can do. At the same time, believing that they will never know enough. But this is just usually insecurities in them. They fear not to be seen as inexperienced or unknowledgeable, and that's even if they are actually experienced and they know enough. So what are the signs of the imposter or the expert, right? This imposter, what are the signs? So one of them being that you tend to shy away or not apply for a job or a project that, though you are very much experienced and meet those expectations, but you feel like someone is going to do it better. There are some other people who are much more experienced than you are, and you feel like you have not met every single educational requirement, or you need those accolades and all that. Also, expert always has to seek out certifications and accolades because they feel they need to improve skills in order to succeed, right? Even if they already have enough skills and enough accolades, and they have the certification to do most of the things that they're already doing. And also another thing about the expert is that they usually always kind of feel that they do not know enough. So always searching for knowledge, unnecessarily, always doing the most, feeling doubtful, right? Like I said, the imposter syndrome will make you feel that way, that you're doubtful. It makes you feel doubtful basically, and makes you feel as if you do not know enough, right? When in actual fact, you have more than enough knowledge to do most of your work. And those are the 5 imposter syndrome that I have made up for you. And to really bring the point home here, right? The fact of the matter is that we all are affected by this thing. It's a psychological effect that we all go through, since we have different lifestyles, we have different circumstances. We all have at least one of these imposters that usually creep into us. No one is really exempt, right? For me, as I bring you this podcast, trust me, I could probably have gone through all 5 of them. But the thing is, you get to know them, you get to know how you can actually deal with them so that you can improve on your mental state, so that you can be much more productive in a much more healthy way. And that's the whole point of this today's podcast. And with that said, I'm going to stop there. I hope you guys have a lovely Sunday, the rest of the Sunday, and peace.